This video is brought to you in partnership with Nintendo South Africa. Stick around to learn about how to get your hands on the series' latest entry, the new special edition Nintendo Switch console, and a stunning Nintendo Switch Pro controller, all themed after the console's latest exclusive, Monster Hunter Rise. Just like Animal Crossing New Horizons in 2020, Monster Hunter Rise is poised to introduce a whole new audience to a well-established and beloved franchise. Unlike the idyllic setting and carefree nature of Animal Crossing though, Monster Hunter is a notoriously dense, complicated, and challenging game, making it a lot more difficult to break into if you're coming to Rise with no experience. The good news is that Rise is probably the most approachable the series has been in some time, incorporating a lot of lessons learned from the stellar Monster Hunter world and combining it with a condensed, more traditional structure. If you're looking for tips on how to start tracking down or carving monsters, but don't know where to start, here's a few pointers to get you up to speed with all of the game's mechanics, its vague systems, and its best bunny dango. You can trust us, we're new to this whole new thing too. Understanding the loop of Monster Hunter. Before anything, it's good to understand just what Monster Hunter as a franchise is. This is a game about the hunt. That means preparing, embarking, and reaping in the rewards of taking down massive, mythical beings. This structure is adhered to strictly in Monster Hunter Rise, meaning you'll need to get down with preparing, going out to do the actual slaying, and then bringing back monster pieces to help you craft gear for your next fight. Monsters go down, numbers go up, rinse and repeat. It's a structure you might be familiar with if you've played games like Destiny or Diablo in the past, but with a much shorter overall loop time. Each hunt can last anywhere between a handful of minutes to an hour depending on the complexity of the hunt, and you can bring in friends to make things more challenging, or just more fun. If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you're already pretty much set to enjoy what Rise is putting down. Picking a weapon. Monster Hunter Rise quickly gets things going by giving you a longsword, but what might not be immediately clear is that you have instant access to the game's 14 total weapons. Each one presents an entirely different way to play, going as far as to radically change the experience from one about fast-paced melee action to slow and methodical ranged third-person shooting. One thing you might miss in the flood of early game tutorial messages is that there's a training room where you can give each weapon a go and suss out exactly what playstyle works for you. If you head to the left as you come outside of your room, you'll come across an area where you can hire additional help and trade with merchants. You'll also find a boat that you can use to get to the training zone. Here, you can swap out your gear with any weapon in your inventory and practice to your heart's content with an overview of basic moves and combos. The Hunter's notes in the pause menu flesh this out more, so be sure to check that out too. If you want to test out something against an actual monster, you can also do arena quests, where you can experiment with pre-made loadouts. There's a lot to say about Monster Hunter Rise's weapons than this video will cover, but for now it's important to know that sticking to the longsword, hammer, dual blades, sword and shield, or light bowgun might be advisable if you're new to the series. Preparing for the hunt. You might think that picking a weapon is all you need for a successful hunt, but Monster Hunter Rise is as much about the preparation as it is about execution. First, you need to decide what type of hunt to go on. Village hunts are the standard solo quests that progress the story. You won't be able to bring any other friends along outside of your personal Palico and Palamute, which means they're tuned for you to enjoy things at your own pace. Tutorial missions are also found in the Village Hunts menu, and they should be your first stop whether you're new to Monster Hunter or not, because they also cover some of the game's new mechanics. Hub hunts are much harder events, and although you can pick them up solo, they are definitely geared towards group play. These quests let you team up with other Monster Hunter Rise players for a truly chaotic and exciting time, as you put your weapon skills together and plan out exactly how to take down an extremely tough monster. But before you even think of going out on a hunt, it's important to eat. Monster Hunter Rise rewards you for investigating your prey and adjusting accordingly, and you should never head out without first scoffing down some delicious bunny dango. These meals offer various buffs for the duration of the hunt, so make sure you get them down before setting out. If you forget to eat in the village, you can always order a meal on the hunt from inside your tent. Prepare in the field too. Bunny Dango gives you a good buff before you hunt, but it's not the only way to ensure you're best prepared for the monster that awaits. New in Monster Hunt Rise is endemic wildlife, which will help you with temporary bonuses. These creatures can be collected to add stat increases to health, stamina, defense, and more. Endemic life can be small, so it's good to always slow down on the way to a monster and scope out as much as you can. Many of the hunting hubs are narrow but high, with multiple levels of canyons and hills to explore with your new wire bug. It lets you scale surfaces with ease, so be sure to really poke around as much as you can to find the best critters for the job at hand. The wire bug can also speed up horizontal traversal and give you new ways to approach an enemy with unique attacks tied to each of the different weapon types. This new tool is crucial in fights where you might want to ride a big monster and use it to do some damage to another, so be sure to pick up every wire bug tutorial you can and consult the hunter's notes for an in-depth breakdown of how each weapon uses it. Also be on the lookout for additional wire bugs in the field that can give you a temporary boost to your total uses, as well as large wire bugs that act as massive slingshots that help you get around a map very quickly. Okay, now this is hunting. So once you've prepared yourself fully and have tracked down your monster, it's time to finally start doing some damage. Monster Hunter Rise rewards methodical uses of your weapons and patience above all else, so it's important not to rush in headfirst and just mash buttons to make damage numbers appear. That might work in the first few hunts, but you'll soon brush up against foes that will either stun you or knock you onto the floor if you aren't trying to read their attacks, and the last thing you want to do is faint and lose out on some mission bonuses. While it's tempting to just chip away at a monster's health without thinking, it's a good idea to get a read on what attacks and patterns they use when fighting. Knowing when to strike is just as important as landing it, and even more crucial if you're using large, powerful but slow weapons. This is why the dual blade might be a good starting choice, as it gives you the speed to get in and out of fights very quickly. But it can be just as satisfying to land a big combo on a monster that has opened itself up, after you've avoided some of its massive blows. Monster Hunter Rise's hunts give you 50 minutes or more to play around and get comfortable, and you'll need that in later challenges where time is a bit tighter. Slow things down, learn your enemies, and enjoy cutting them down with both brains and brawn. The phases of a hunt. Let's be real though, you're going to take damage. So as important as it is to know how to use a weapon, you'll also need to understand how to adapt to the flow of a fight. This comes down to 3 main points: managing health, topping up stamina, and sharpening your weapon. Health is pretty straightforward. As it decreases, you want to back out of a fight and use a potion to top it back up. Try not to do this as a monster is coming at you though, since potions don't immediately heal you. Instead, you'll get some health back instantly while the rest needs to be gradually added as your hunter gulps down the vial. Interrupt this process and you'll lose out on the full potential of the full potion. Second is stamina, which governs your ability to attack and dodge an enemy. As you fight, your stamina total will start to decrease, to the point where you might barely be able to get an attack off and have the ability to dodge right afterwards. You can use rations in a pinch to quickly get your stamina total back up, or pull out a handy Spitfire and roast some meat on it for more of a gain. Just don't let it burn. Lastly, dealing damage or having attacks deflected will blunt your weapon over time, so it's a good idea to keep your eye on the sharpness meter. Your whetstone has infinite uses, so you can sharpen your weapon whenever you like, but you might not want to do so if you're in the middle of a deadly duel. Instead, use the downtime when a monster flees to get all of your bars back up to scratch. Better still is that you can use the whetstone and gulp down potions while riding on your palamute, which cuts downtime significantly. Hunt down that monster and land the killing blow. Once you've successfully chased down a monster a couple of times, you'll be on the verge of landing a killing blow, at which point you have 2 options. The first is switching things up and attempting to trap the monster with a combo of deployable traps and tranquilizers. This is a more challenging approach to finishing a hunt, but can reward you with alternative resources you might need for later crafts, so it's good to keep in mind. At the start though, you'll likely be killing your prey, which means hammering away at it until it goes down for the count. Be aware though that once this happens, you will automatically be whisked back to the main hub after a minute. Holding down A while collecting items from the kill lets you gather them all at once, instead of relying on additional button presses, which can give you a handful of seconds to scour the area around you to pick up anything else of value. Once you're back at the main hub, be sure to check out the blacksmith. You might spot a handy upgrade for a weapon or an entirely new armor set to craft for the hunts ahead. Every piece of gear has its uses, and in turn requires certain types of materials to craft. Knowing what you're hunting is just as important as knowing what you'll gain from it, so make sure you start formulating plans for what you want to craft and how to get the items you need once you settle into Monster Hunter Rise's rhythm. And that's pretty much everything you need to know to get your journey started with the Nintendo Switch's latest exclusive, Monster Hunter Rise. If you're still on the fence about a purchase or just haven't found the right edition for you, be sure to check out links in the description below for ways to get your hands on the base physical game, collector's edition, or a gorgeous Monster Hunter Rise Nintendo Switch bundle that comes with a stylized console, controller, and the game. Also, if you're looking for the best experience, you'll want a Nintendo Pro controller, which now comes in a new Monster Hunter Rise variant. It's really pretty. Did we miss anything? Have any additional tips for new players? Sound off in the comments below, give this a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing to Checkpoint Chat for more Monster Hunter Rise content. A big thank you again to Nintendo South Africa for sponsoring this video.